Okay, welcome everyone to Second Saturday Tarot. And today we're talking about intuition and tarot divination. And here we are going to look at a little bit more at the structure of tarot and how certain cards, certain aspects of the tarot, and certain cards are related to the power of receiving that we have, reception, downloading, channeling, and that is all about water. So we're going into the element of water to look more deeply into tarot divination. Okay, so we're just going to start out with this question. What does it mean to be psychic? And I will begin by saying that everyone is psychic. There is no one who is not psychic. Everybody has this power of receptivity, receiving. And you know, that's the meaning of the term Kabbalah. It means to receive, to receive, to receive. So I feel like it's continuous downloads. Continuous downloads are coming in, and we do get conditioned by our culture to ignore a lot of that, also for self-preservation, because excuse me, because we learn to focus and we learn to block a lot of things out. Okay, so psychic is letting in, and excuse me, it means, it's from the Greek, psychos. I was trying to block out the Alfred Hitchcock version of it. Psycho, all right? That's when too much is happening. Okay, but what it really means is of the soul. Psyche means soul, and it has meant soul. Psychology is the study of the soul, which I love so much, and I didn't even realize that back in the day when I was taking psych classes in college. I learned it later, of the soul, of or relating to the psyche. That means lying outside the sphere of physical science or knowledge. It's perceived. The soul is immaterial, moral, or spiritual in origin or force. It is sensitive to non-physical or supernatural forces and influences. It is marked by extraordinary or mysterious sensitivity, perception, or understanding. So that's actually a dictionary definition of the meaning of psyche. And it's an opening. Intuition. What about intuition? This is a big part of psychic understanding. To intuit is to know, to sense, to understand. Intuere, that's Latin. To look at, to contemplate, to have a quick and ready insight, to know what leaps out, to have immediate perception, direct knowledge, direct perception, before or beneath rational thought, a fundamental sense of things, even a fundamental sense of what is right and wrong, just knowing, direct knowing. That's intuition. And then divination, because these are all terms we're working with. Divinare. This is the art or practice of foreseeing or foretelling, or again, just knowing, discovering hidden knowledge by interpreting omens or with the aid of supernatural powers. Divination has to do with unusual insight, it is said, intuitive perception. And the word divine or to divine comes from deity. So it has always been assumed that those who are practicing divination are being guided or are channeling some kind of energy that is bigger than themselves. The idea of divination is that we are inferring by intuition or insight, and that means inferring a greater truth. And with divination, we can discover or locate. It also holds the power of prophecy and the power of story making. So this is a big thing that we do with tarot, that we experience with tarot, is the power of divination. Okay, and let me just say, do I think that we can foretell the future with tarot cards? And I think all of you are probably reading cards. Do I think we can foretell the future? It's a question in my mind. The answer is, I don't know. But after over 40 years of working with cards every day and 50 years of being acquainted with the cards, it is amazing what they bring forth and what they can express. And of course, the cards are flashcards of Kabbalistic knowledge. So the Tarot of the Spirit is, not all tarot cards, but Tarot of the Spirit, the whole deck is a series of flashcards of Kabbalistic knowledge based on the Tree of Life. And so the Tree of Life has built into it a sequence that has a kind of predictive ability. So even if we can't tell the future or foretell the future, at the very least, the cards can give us, will give us, do give us a focal point for consideration as we are moving toward the future. So let's say we have something unknown is happening and we are in a state of anxiety about it. Okay, so you just draw a card, it gives a focal point to move the energy. And the energy will move. Another thing that I do is I will draw a card to help me determine what I want to do or what I want to do next or something like that. And if it feels incomplete or I don't understand it or I don't like it, I will draw another card. I will keep drawing until a story is told and I feel really good about it. And I have been using this practice daily, as I said, for probably 40 years. And it is an amazing practice. By the way, I will tell you, my mother, who I created the tarot deck with, my mom, Joyce Eakins, she is still on the planet. She's 95 years old. My mother never does tarot readings and never has. Okay, for her, the tarot of the Spirit is a step-by-step path directed at spiritual enlightenment in the form and meditational form of the Western mystery tradition. And that's how she uses it. So it is for that, and it is to be internalized for her, just to internalize the step-by-step, which also, by the way, has a predictive quality to it, but to internalize that within, and you don't need the cards. Also, my first teacher I had, she instructed me with 7 tarot decks, and she said to me, there will come a moment when you no longer need any cards. You don't need the tarot cards. You just know the system, you know the whole thing, and whatever you need is going to appear to you. And that's it, and then no more cards. And she said, I'm done with the cards. I'm through with the cards, so I'm giving them to you. The first 7 decks that were on the market, and she had all of them and gave them all to me. So, all right, that's a little bit about divination. Okay, there are 2 kinds of divination, And I made this up. I call it primary and secondary level divination. These divination is non-ordinary or a mystical way of knowing. Primary level divination is when we just know something. That's, you just know it because you're clairsentient, you feel it, or you psychometry is where you are maybe holding on to a piece of jewelry of someone's and you just know something about it. Maybe you know where they are, or you're just channeling something, you just know it. Or a flock of birds flies by and you read it and you know what's going to happen in the future. Or you're looking into a pond of water and you see a ripple on the surface and you just know something. That's primary level divination. All of us have that power. We all know. Secondary level divination is knowing with the help of studying some kind of a system. For example, the tarot, that's a major system, or astrology, a major system that goes back to the beginning. Numerology, palmistry, a Ouija, these are secondary level ways of knowing, because when you look at these omens or whatever, you are interpreting based on a collection of information that has been gathered, that you have studied, so that helps you understand it. But the secondary level divination systems are only ever meant and never were meant to do anything other than to support your primary intuitive understanding. So what's really important, like when you look at a tarot card, is your own interpretation. No two people are going to interpret it the same way in a given moment because it's very individual. So the idea is learning to trust your own interpretation. That is the idea. That is the most important thing, to realize that you can do it, you can understand. Your understanding is bigger than you think. Okay, now here it is. I wanted to throw this in, the law and the law, because again, I want to emphasize that every human being has psychic powers. Every human being receives information. Every human being has a deep kind of understanding. And yet, we have been curtailed in that because theoretically, because of people misusing that power and manipulating others with that power. Like, this is the person you know who says they're psychic and no one else is, and they can then manipulate a situation or somebody with that. I have heard of people in my life who were so-called fortune tellers, but then they told the person was in danger, and for certain amounts of money or something like that, that they would pray for the person at certain intervals or something like that. I mean, this happens. Okay, that's where the laws, partly where the laws come from. The laws against fortune telling, they're called fortune telling laws. And laws against fortune telling also emerge from trying to suppress certain belief systems and not allowing those belief systems to surface in any given culture. Okay, so I wanted to say something about the law and the law because this is a thing that is talked about in the mystery school tradition. So law with a small l, that is the legal documentation, the legal verbiage that is written down that tells you what you can do and what you can't do, and you could get arrested for something. The law with the capital letters is the law of nature. It is natural law, and natural law is in general what we are practicing, what we are tapping into. Okay, so this quote here is from is out of the law book, and this is the law. What I'm going to read you is the law where I live. Law with a small l, and it is currently the law. This is what fortune telling means. Fortune telling means telling of fortunes, forecasting of fortunes, or furnishing any information not otherwise obtainable by the ordinary process of knowledge by means of any occult, psychic power, faculty, forces, clairvoyance, clairaudience, cartomancy, which is tarot reading, psychometry, phrenology, spirits, tea leaves, or other such reading, mediumship, seership, prophecy, augury, astrology, palmistry, necromancy, mind reading, telepathy, or other craft, art, science, cards, talisman, charm, potion, magnetized article or substance, gypsy, cunning, or foresight, crystal gazing, oriental mysteries, or magic of any kind or nature. This is the law. This is illegal. All of this stuff is illegal. If they wanted to arrest someone for any of these things, they can. And I do know of people during my incarnation who have been arrested and who have been convicted. And then what has happened with them, because people don't even realize that it's illegal in some places. Okay, the key is not charging money in certain places. So it says, here's the next sentence: no person shall conduct, engage in, carry on, participate in, or practice fortune telling, or cause the same to be done for pay without having a permit. Okay, so if you can get a permit. Okay, now this is not true all over that it's illegal. For example, it's not illegal I live on the west coast of the United States, over the Pacific Ocean. I live 20 minutes south of San Francisco. It's not illegal in San Francisco. It is not illegal in Santa Cruz, which is just south of me. It's not illegal in Los Angeles. So it depends on where you are. So it might be something that you might want to just check. Just look at the laws. I'm sure they're on the internet now, and you can just check it out. So what is a permit? Okay, the way I found out about this is once I had some kind of car issue. I forgot what it was, and I walked into the police station in Half Moon Bay, the sheriff's department, and there was a blackboard, and written on it with white chalk, it said, tarot reading is illegal. And that was for all the officers who walked in that day to see that tarot reading was illegal. Now, I don't know why it was up there. I didn't know it was illegal. And I said, is that true, to the receptionist, is that tarot reading illegal? And she said, well, it says it on the board, so I guess so. So I decided I better go check out the law and find out what it was. And I found out, indeed, it's all illegal, even astrology. Okay, so obviously so many people are doing it, but if they did want to prosecute someone, I just wanted to let you know that this does exist because you may be a professional reader, and if so, you need to, I think, just be aware of it and then how you're going to work with it. And I think it's shifting a bit because because of the internet and other things, but it still is happening. Okay, so what I found out at that time, it said you need to have a permit if you're within the city limits. Well, I'm not in the city limits, so I'm going to let you know that I'm outside the city limits. So anyway, but you need a permit within the city. Within the city limits, you need licensure and bonding. You have to be fingerprinted, and you need to be fingerprinted so you can be tracked, and you need to pay an annual fee. And back in the day when this happened, the annual fee, this is a long time ago, the annual fee was $2,000. So it's not small. It wasn't small. Okay, so this is an interesting, just a story I wanted to share with you, especially those of you who are becoming professional readers. It's quaint, it's archaic, and it's still on the books in a lot of places. So just check it out. Don't get scared. Just check it out, because one more time, let me say, everyone is psychic. And there's probably nobody, you could find no one on your block where you live who hasn't experienced some of these things, participated in some of these things. It is ubiquitous. It's everywhere. Okay. So divination, this is critical and key in tarot. Okay, what about the tarot? What about divination with this particular set of keys here? So it's psychoactive art. That means when you look at it, it's the symbols are meant to set off something in your consciousness. It teaches you to hone your skills in terms of your inner knowing and to trust yourself. When you do a tarot reading, you are connecting with this cosmic stream of energy. You're also setting an intention that you want to know something, you want something to happen out of it. You're asking to receive a message. You are participating with the power of creation through reading and casting symbols, elements, and numerical and alphabetical correspondences. So we're actually going deeper into that. And today especially, we're going to look at astrological correspondences, planets and constellations. The planets and the astrological coordinates or correspondences appear on every card in Tarot of the Spirit and pretty much in every tarot deck. Most tarot decks do have, no matter how superficial, have astrological correspondences connected with them. The tarot is based on 4 elements: fire, water, air, and earth. Of these, water is the primary field or dimension of intuition and divination. The entire suit of water holds vast intuitive promise. And though I'm going into a lot of tarot cards today, one thing I did not do, but I think it would be interesting for you to do, is just lay out the whole suit of water, 1 through 10, Tarot of the Spirit, and then ask, okay, what's the intuitive aspect of number 1, the 1 of water? We will look at that today. But then the 2 of water, the 3 of water, the 4 of water. We will show the outline of water, but we're not going to go into what each one holds. But know that water is considered to be the element of the memory, or that holds the memory of past, present, and future. The water element is about receiving, to receive. Primal water. The 1 of water is astrologically, it's primal water. The first water, the beginning water. And I wanted to throw in this other concept of primary water, which I have just learned about. This is actually a physical term, primary water, and it means water that self creates. So all over the planet Earth, water doesn't just cycle around the earth and turn into different elements. Water is actually created. So if you want to look into this, look up primary water and look at the science of how water is created on the planet Earth. It's extremely interesting. Okay, so water is considered to be yin, female. It's receptive, open to receive. The 1 of water is called the open channel in Tarot of the Spirit. So this is opening to receive. And the meaning of Kabbalah is to receive, and it also means the secret knowledge received when we open up to receive. And now I wanted to share with you my first experience of tarot divination. So I got my cards out. I'm studying with my teacher. This was my first experience with a teacher, right? So this is like 40 years ago, just about. Okay, with the teacher. So she wants me to read, and she gives me the cards and she tells me to start practicing. So I put the cards out on the table, face down, kitchen table tarot. And I heard, before I ever drew a card, I heard the words, "Go get a bowl of water." And I'm like, water? What? Yeah, go get a bowl of water. Get a bowl of water now. Okay, so this is clairaudience. I heard that. Get a bowl of water. So I did. I went and got a bowl of water and I put it on the table, and they said basically, good. Okay. Later, I learned, okay, this is the ancient art of scrying with water, where you're actually just primary level knowledge. The sorcerers and priestesses and magicians of old, the ones who worked in the courts and advised the kings and queens and so on, oftentimes were scrying with a bowl of water or a pond, a meditation pool, where they would just look into it, or even with their eyes closed, and know what was happening and be able to advise. Okay, so that's called scrying, and I was not aware of that at all. So I went and got a bowl of water, and then here it comes. And then I did a reading. The next thing was get an altar cloth. An altar cloth. They didn't say altar cloth. They say get a cloth, get something to put down between the table and the cards. I don't think it was called altar cloth at the time. Just get something to put down. And so, okay, I got that too. Then, so I did that. That was all on the first day. Okay, then a few days later, so I was adamantly doing the readings. A few days later, I got the message, get a candle. Okay, this is before I knew all the things that I know now about the tree of life, the pillars of the tree of life, the female energies, the male energies, all of that, fire and water. Okay, then so the water came first, which I find very interesting at this point in time. So get the water, then I got the message, go get a candle. Okay, so I go get a candle, so now I have the water is to my right, the candle is to my left, the altar cloth is down, and this creates my space. It's a sacred space. And I wasn't really using those words yet, but it was a creation of a sacred space. And then I began to learn that not only is water critical, but fire is critical. They work together, and fire, as they say in the Western mystery tradition, is the secret abode of water, and water is the secret abode of fire. So this is how these two are intimately connected. Water holds the power of what, let me put it this way, water holds power within its cells. The deuterium atom, which people have been trying to extract from water to extract power, to power the earth. So these two they have been working together from the beginning, and in ancient days, the water represented female, fire represented male. It still does in the tarot. The female is the receiving. It receives, it doesn't move unless it's impacted by another element, but the fire is constantly consuming, moving. So the fire is considered male and applies to the suits of fire and air, and water applies to the suits of water and earth. Earth also receives and then produces. Now, what I want to talk about is, because we're talking about this psychic energy, divination, intuition, psychic energy, is the moon. Astrologically, the moon is considered to be the most powerful symbol of intuition and divination. It's always with us. It travels with us as we are Earth, and the moon is always with us. The moon represents psyche, that's the soul, night, darkness, deep internal world, and psychic experience. The moon is called a planet. It's not really a planet, but it's called a planet astrologically. The moon is always changing. So when we look at the sky, we're going to see the moon in a different position every single night. And there's a big question that comes up too. What changes and what doesn't change with regard to the moon, and why? Okay, so the moon reflects the sun at different angles, and then it creates the light on the moon from the sun at different angles. And also, people don't realize, but it's scientifically true, that all matter creates its own light as well. So the moon also creates its own light. It is a light source as well as just being a reflector. The moon is primarily considered to be yin because it receives, it reflects, and it balances, but it also contains the yang, yin and yang. And when you look at the moon, you see the yin yang or yin yang symbol in the moon. It's on the face of the moon. You can see it in the picture that I have here. You can actually see the how it works, the yin yang symbol. And it's funny, I just had a funny thought, because when you see movies and they have to, like Hollywood movies, and a lot of times, well, you might not realize that a lot of the moons that you're seeing are part of a set. They're created. They're created moons. The full moon in the sky isn't actually real. It's created. But you will notice that some of those moons, they're just painted in a clever way, but they don't contain the yin yang. They're not even real. They don't have the yin yang symbol. Watch next time you see a Hollywood movie and see if it's like an accurate yin yang representation of the moon. Okay, because I love that the moon, that's what we're seeing when we're looking at the moon. Okay, the moon is a representative or representation of having the sight or clairvoyance. Also clairaudience, which means to hear things. Clairsentience, which means to feel things. The moon is about soul, psychic power. And I already mentioned changeability, because that's a key in the moon. The moon also represents seasonality, because it's changing month by month and season by season. And this is one of the essential aspects of doing ceremonial magic. It's orienting to the moon. And from time immemorial, we humans have planted in the new moon, especially during certain months. The new moon represents the beginning of something. The full moon represents it coming into its fruition, and then the old moon is where it's fading out. And if you want to know if what you're looking at is a new moon or an old moon, I wanted to know. I watched the moon for years and years. I'm not watching it as much anymore, but I watched it year after year after year. And I came up with this little system with my hands. Okay, if you can hold the moon in your right hand, that is a new moon. That means it's a new moon. If you're holding it in your left hand, it's an old moon. So if that gets confusing, you can cross your hands like this and see which hand the moon fits in. And then you're going to know, you're going to be able to see the whole arc of the moon in the sky. That's just a little fun fact. Okay. The moon represents ancient wisdom and ageless wisdom. Here's where the moon appears in the major arcana in the tarot, the priestess. The priestess is the major moon card. The moon appearing in the priestess card. She is so important. So I put down here on the slide, I put alpha, because she's the portal to greater psychic experience. So if she turns up in your reading, she's got the moon. The moon is on her third eye is the moon. The moon is also, you can see the moon on the card next to her foot. That's the moon symbol appearing by her foot. And she has her feet on the stream of water, which is a stream of consciousness, checkered, dark and light. She's the one who is holding the Akashic records. She's got the memory of all that has been, all that is, and all that ever shall be. So if the priestess card comes up, again, trust your perceptions. Okay, the beta card, the next most important, is the moon card itself. And this moon card is the moon in Pisces. The moon appearing in Pisces. Well, Pisces is very intuitive. We're going to go back to Pisces. Pisces is very intuitive. It's a dream state. This is all about internal, emotional, soulful, psychic experience. Pisces. So if you get the moon card, it's all about intuition. Trust your intuition. We'll go further into that. And then it's smaller, I put in the Hanged Man, because the Hanged Man doesn't actually have the moon in it, but the moon controls the tides and the waters, and the Hanged Man is actually the card of primal water, which means that astrologically primal water. And so that is all about, again, holding the memory of all that was, all that is, and all that ever shall be. The Hangman is about total receptivity and surrender, especially during metamorphosis, because the Hangman is so much into water. Thought isn't even there. There's no thought. It's just one with the movement of the water, the rising and the falling. And the water pours right through the card, the movement of the river. It's like a river going right through the Hangman card. So this is where the moon appears in these two cards in the major arcana. The moon appears in the priestess, in the moon, and then the Hangman is holding primal water. So that's going to be related to the moon. The moon moves the water. Gravitation, it's all about gravitation, seasons, tides, rhythms. And so here's the Hangman, called Mem in Hebrew, primal water flowing through. And again, it's all about metamorphosis. And this card is about releasing into transformation, receiving and releasing into transformation. And he's got that downward pointed triangle on the card, and that is the symbol for water, is the downward pointed triangle. Back to the priestess, the moon. She's called the Maja, and usually I spell it M-A-G-A, but for reasons I'm not going to talk about, I decided to spell it M-A-J-A today. Anyway, the Maja. Okay, the Maja is the female version of the Magus. And this is a secret of Tarot of the Spirit. The priestess became so powerful in developing this deck that I wanted to call it the Maja Tarot for the priestess. And in the end, I'm glad that I didn't do that, because it might have been limiting in some way. I'm glad we called it Tarot of the Spirit, which is a more general term. But the Maja, she was the one overseeing the whole creation of the deck, the female aspect of the Magus. Okay, attributes of the priestess. So she's centered within and between the polarities, and that's also the nature of the moon, because the moon is centered, in a sense, between the polarities of dark and light. She has the sight. That means she's clairvoyant. She is the portal to psychic energy and the gateway to the Akashic records. Okay, so the Akashic records that's the book of life. It is the remembrance of all that has been and all that will be. And here's your power, because when she comes up, you have the opportunity to write your story in the book of life. Do you want to write your chapter? Here's your moment, which I love. So depending on how she comes up in a reading, she contains all forms of psychic and divinatory powers, which I'm going to talk about in a minute in terms of the powers of the sun signs. She creates the cosmos and expands the cosmological soul. She knows our true nature, even in the midst of turbulent change. So it's like, who are you really? It's going to come up with this card. Know thyself, who are you? Here you are. Oh, I just also had the memory that when this deck first came out, this was back in the days before the internet, and there were many magazines that people used to read, a thing called magazines in print. And a lot of the magazines that were out at the time reviewed new books and decks and things like that. And in a lot of these magazines, the Tarot of the Spirit was called, here's another secret of the deck, it was called the Alien Deck, because people were calling it the Alien Deck. And I just had that memory because when you look at the priestess's eyes, she does look a little alien. And they would always point out the priestess, look at the priestess, then start looking at the rest of the cards, then start watching how the cards transform. Even while you're watching them, they will transform. So this was the reputation of the deck. It was pretty fun. I enjoyed it. I mean, I got a kick out of it. Okay. So here's the moon card, the moon in Pisces. So the moon in Pisces is all about our wild nature, our fear that comes up with that, and also our courage. It's about our prophetic dreams and visions, our creativity, our revelations and epiphanies, our spirit guides, and our ancestors. So if this card comes up, you're going to be asking yourself, it's got the wild and domesticated wolf on it. Okay, what do I need to do? I'm in the business of creating a new world. This is a new world being created on this card. It's a little bit scary because I don't know where I'm headed. So here's the place where we have to step into our courage and realize the light that we're creating is the light within our own selves. Also, I wanted to point out on the back of her head is the labyrinth structure, which represents the medulla oblongata, which they say is like it's the secret 8th chakra where we receive messages from the universe. So it's like at the nape of the neck, and they say in the Western mystery tradition, this is where the messages actually enter, is in this place at the nape of the neck, which is like a labyrinth we walk internally. Now I like to go into your sun sign astrologically. So the moon is the most important planet regarding intuition, but then every astrological sun sign has its special form of primary divination. So I said here, what is your sun sign? So theoretically, everybody here knows what your sun sign is, right? I mean, you should know. Well, not you should, you don't have to. But like, are you Capricorn? Are you Pisces? Are you Aquarius? Are you whatever? Are you Virgo? Okay, so get that in your mind right now. What is your sun sign? So in a tarot reading, the moon might appear in your sun sign on the card. For example, you might have the moon in Pisces. That happens to be my card. I'm a Pisces. So I'm a Pisces, saved only by Capricorn rising, which helps me have a bit of a logical step-by-step linear mind, because Pisces is very dreamy. But if you're talking about the moon in Pisces, if you're a Pisces and the moon appears, ooh, you're going to go into your heavily dreamy intuitive state. So just know that. And every sign has its specialty in terms of its own type of divination and intuition. So how does this roll out in terms of the moon? Okay, I'm not talking about your astrological chart right now, but if you look at your chart, you'd have to look at your chart and see where your moon is on the chart, because there's a moon on your chart. But right now, I just want to talk about the moon in relation to your sun sign. Okay, and so that you can step into this and you can begin with your own power, because people have different ways of knowing and different ways of interpreting and intuiting. So here's the first one. I'm going to go through the signs. So the moon in Aries, the strength is called claircognizance. So that's a general knowing. Aries knows everything, right? Just feels it. Primal instinct, receiving psychic information, just knowing, and gnosis. Okay, so if you're Aries, just know that you know, and most Aries do, and then trust that and move with that energy. Taurus, you may not know this, psychometry. Okay, if you're Taurus, you are really connected with being able to feel energies through objects. And this card, the Six of Earth, this is the moon in Taurus. So I want you to start thinking about the astrology on the cards. So moon in Taurus. So this might put a bit of a different spin on this card, Six of Earth, beauty. So really? So that means that all the objects have energy. Whatever the objects are, because it's the six, it's in the middle, it's earth, it's grounded, and it is beautiful and perfect, and the objects are beautiful and perfect, and it's centered right in the middle of the tree of life. So feeling the energies through the objects, or creating sacred spaces, or walking in beauty on the planet, putting your foot down in beauty. Moon in Taurus, psychometry. Moon in Gemini. Okay, so if you're Gemini, start listening, and know that you're probably going to hear more than other people. Mystical hearing. And this one I have starred, Moon in Cancer, because Cancer is extremely empathic. If it's happening outside of ourselves, it's happening within ourselves. We're feeling the energies. Cancer is ruled by the moon. And I put up here on the screen, may necessitate psychic defense. Because if you have got a lot of energy coming in from wherever you go, you might have to block some of that energy out by surrounding yourself with white light, by not allowing any negative energies in, by making that affirmation. And, I put up this little thing, empath alert, how to stay balanced as Earth's energies intensify, because this is going to impact Cancer a lot. So How do you know intuitively as a Cancer? It comes in. You receive it. The card that is the moon in Cancer is the Four of Water. And in working on this particular presentation here, I have come to a whole new level with the Four of Water and defining that card. So I'm going to say more about that in a bit. But the Four of Water fits right here with empath and Cancer. The moon in Leo, that's a creative channel. So with Leo, you're receiving something, then you're transforming that into your arts, something that's going to go out. Transforming reception into creative expression, like channeling paintings, channeling scripts is what came up to me, came into my mind. Writing scripts, making movies, writing books, all of that kind of stuff, writing poetry, all of that is moon in Leo. It's coming through and it's going out. Creative expression. Moon in Virgo, clairsentience, feeling it, interoception. That's feeling it in your body, feeling it in your organs. So this is being a physical empath. And I mean, we all have this too. We all have all of these, but it may be that some of them are more predominant for you, or one is more predominant. So this is where you get chills when something happens. You feel, oh, I've got chills, or your stomach, you get butterflies, or something. Okay, Virgos are really good at medical intuition. That is maybe just feeling what is happening within someone's body. Oh, and by the way, look, I want to back up for a second to psychometry, like holding an object and knowing something, because it is now widely used by the police and other people to use psychometry, like holding a person's object or a piece of clothing and knowing where they are. I'm getting out of order here, but all of these forms are now, to some extent, accepted and used in the military a lot in the military. I'm not going to go into that right now, and by law enforcement, to find people, to know things, and to pinpoint locations. But the moon in Virgo, back to the moon in Virgo, clairsentience, that's the feeling, clear feeling, right? Clear and open feeling. Or interoception means like a feeling in your heart, or your solar plexus, or your stomach, gut feeling. Interoception is about what's your gut feeling, and you just know. Okay, next is Libra. Okay, Libra is known for telepathy, and the tarot card related to this. So I'm hoping to put another spin on the cards for you today too, if you haven't thought about this. So moon in Libra is the Two of Wind. And so this is about telepathy. It's called the crossing. The card's called the crossing. Well, it's also the crossing of consciousness. If you look at it vertically, it goes from the 1 to the 2 to the 3. So it's a stage of transformation. In number 2, it's a stage of transformation. But if you look at it horizontally, it's also telepathic communication that goes out sideways, so to speak, horizontally. Moon in Scorpio is known for mediumship. So if you're a Scorpio, you're probably going to be a good medium. And what's a medium? A medium is contacting the guides, the dead, where people will come through and present themselves. They'll maybe talking to you, maybe telling a story, or any kind of spirits that might be coming through. I hope you're finding this a little bit fun. Okay, I'm finding it a little bit fun. Okay. Okay, this moon in Sagittarius. So, moon in Sagittarius is known for clairvoyance. Voyance is seeing. So, these are the people who see movies unfolding basically in their consciousness. They have the sight. So, they're seeing something. Sagittarius would be, they're visionaries as well. Okay, so moon in Sagittarius appears on this card, the Nine of Fire. So this card is about getting up and out of our normal way of knowing. So our vision expands. It's called the Eye of Fire, this card. Expanded vision, clairvoyance, mystical sight. So this is yet another dimension of these tarot cards. And this one I love because it gave me a lot of understanding. And this is moon in Capricorn. Okay, what about Capricorns? How do Capricorns know? Capricorns are pragmatic, practical, getting things done on the planet. Okay, well, guess what? Capricorns are decoders. Capricorns can see the codes and interpret codes and patterns and have a really good sense of symbolic recognition, meaning recognizing symbols and their meanings, seeing repetitions, seeing synchronicities. So the moon in Capricorn is going to be very powerful because you're going to know things by code breaking and seeing codes throughout the symbolism. So you see, all of you, everybody has a bunch of these prevalent in your consciousness, but what are the main ones? And I actually realized that moon in Capricorn is one of my skills, even though I'm Pisces, but Capricorn rising. Moon in Capricorn is one of my skills because I tend to have my new word lately is spreadsheet mind, where I can arrange things linearly as well and make sense of them. Okay, this one, moon in Aquarius, lightning flash intuition, fast and huge psychic downloads, brilliant perceptions. And so here we have the Seven of Wind, and this is the card of the moon in Aquarius. It's many tongues, okay? So when you get these psychic downloads, it changes your consciousness. That's the wind. And this is the Seven of Wind, moon in Aquarius. So it changes your perception, and then you want to share it. You want to talk about it. You want to work it through. You want to involve others. So this is moon in Aquarius, lightning flash recognition, psychic downloads. And then Pisces, moon in Pisces, prophecy. Okay, so deja vu, that's a big one. Astral projection, prophetic dreams, that's usually what Pisces is known for, and contacting spirit guides. Pisces is ruled by Neptune. Okay, Neptune is a water sign. So you're going to have like a moon. So moon, Pisces, Neptune is kind of like a triple water space. And so, Neptune is the god of the sea. The tarot card associated with the moon in Pisces is the moon, which appears here. So it's a major arcana card, the moon. So this card is the moon in Pisces. So again, when you get this card, the moon, deja vu, astral projection, prophetic dreams, spirit guides, all those things coming up as ways of intuiting and knowing. So the main thing is, if you get this card, trust your intuition. Trust your intuition. You're right, you're correct, trust it, go for it. Move beyond your fear, be courageous. That's the path of the moon. So I wanted to put up this card too. Dot. This is the mystery card, which is a psychic doorway between worlds because it is ruled by Neptune. Also, the god of the sea. This is the secret 11th sphere, which is about inspiration, dreams, and visions, and psychic receptivity. It's called the doorway between worlds, and it's the doorway between dimensions. So here we go. All right, the more knowledge you have about tarot, and I know many of you are decades into your knowledge, the more knowledge you have, the more sense all this is going to make, and you can fit it all together. So for some of you, it might just be an intro. It might just be an intro. And for some of you, it's going to fit into that spreadsheet system that you already have going in your consciousness about tarot. Okay, astrological water signs, they will be the most intuitive. Cancer, Scorpio, Pisces. So anytime that comes up in a reading, any Cancer cards, any Scorpio cards, any Pisces cards. So anytime that comes up, we're talking intuition, we're talking trust your intuition, and this is all about knowing that your divination is good. Okay, so Cancer, receiving, containing, protecting, remembering, and integrating the past. Scorpio, it's more scientific knowledge, more probing knowledge, more exacting knowledge, but hugely devoted and extremely mystical. Very mystical sign. And Pisces, again, intuitive, empathetic, sympathetic, and imaginative. So those three water signs, and whenever the moon appears in any one of those three, Cancer, Scorpio, Pisces, you've got major intuitive stuff going on. So again, this is our review. The moon represents expanded perception, and it appears in these 5 cards in the minor arcana. The 9 of fire, the eye of fire, which is about spiritual expansion, the 4 of water, the flood, which is the moon in Cancer. It's about waters rising. I'm going to come back to this card. The 2 of wind, that's that Libra card, the telepathy, and it's also the crossing into the metamorphosis. A metamorphosis. It's the moon in Libra. So when you look at the cards, you'll be able to see the signs. They're hard to see on these little pictures, but they're there. You can see the moon, like moon in Sagittarius, moon in Libra, and then the 7 of wind, moon in Aquarius, many tongues. That's that lightning flash knowledge. And then that leads into, because it's the wind, and the wind is about consciousness, it leads into ideation, wanting to create ideas about the new, about what's coming, about what could happen after the lightning flash explosion of energies. Then the 6 of earth, moon in Taurus. This is the one about psychometry, about feeling the power of objects. Okay, how do we walk in the flow of change? How do we walk in the flow, in the power of the earth as we are moving forward? So these 5 cards turn out to be very intuitive cards, trusting your intuition. Okay, this I want to emphasize the tarot calendar. So we can't go through the whole thing today, but we're going to go through a piece of it. This is the part I thought might be just a little bit tedious because it's small. If you can open your book, okay, so if you watch this later and you can open your Kabbalah and Tarot of the Spirit book to page 357, you can look at this. You can look at the calendar. That's where it appears. And so you can go more deeply into the calendar. And if you can identify your birth date on the calendar, you can see there are dates that go around the outside. So you can identify your birth date And then you can see corresponding cards. First, you're going to see your sun sign, then you see your corresponding cards, and then you see fire brother, water brother, wind mother. Those are the family cards. You see which family cards your birth date is connected to. And then the sisters, which represent the seasons, and then the 4 water cards, which also represent the seasons. So you can see your own cards going out, which is going to tell you more about your own powers, your intuitive powers. It's also going to tell you about the daily and seasonal movements of the year, because you can take today and spot where it is on the calendar. This also becomes a schedule for divination, because in those places where the moon is strong, where it's water signs on those particular days, these are good times for divination, for intuition, and good days for ceremonial magic. Okay, so ceremonial magic and seasonal magic is all about, like, for example, seasonal celebrations would take place on the summer solstice, the winter solstice, the equinoxes. Those would be days of a lot of power, astrologically speaking, at certain moments of balance, that we can feel those energies. The longest day of the year, the longest night of the year. These are times that we have connected to as a species since the birth of our species. This is what surrounds us. And so this round calendar captures that, and we can actually work with that calendar. And if you wanted to, you could do meditations on the cards each day. You can see what card it is that's up for that day, and you could meditate on that card. So if you wanted to do a meditational practice, you could just go around the year and meditate on the cards that show up. So, and then on the bottom, there's a legend where it says, here's the element, like fire, water, wind, air, earth. And so that's going to tell you what element it is. Like, I'm looking at the top where it says Earth Mother, December 22nd. And that is actually the 2 of Earth, because that's an Earth symbol, is that diamond. 2 of Earth, Earth Mother. Okay, so the 2 of Earth would be predominant during that time. And you can meditate on the 2 of Earth on that day, if that makes sense. Okay, so it becomes a schedule for understanding our lives and working with the tarot. Okay, so next, I want to go back to the moon in Cancer again, the 4 of water, because this card, being a moon card in Cancer, is an unbelievably good time for divination. Because with this card, or when this card comes up, the veil is thin. Why? Because it's a 4 card, and 4 is like the culmination, or the fullness, the absolute fullness and solidification of the particular element. So here's water in this 4 of water. It's so full. It's so full with water, and water is the element of divination. It's so full, it's shimmering, it's like bonded at the top. This is like a dam that is so full and is just getting ready to just absolutely flood. It's so full, it can't handle anymore. It's a place of satiation. It's extreme fullness. And it is also a place of double attention in psychic attributions. And that means it's Cancer, and it's the moon at its greatest power. So I put here, God willing, and the creek don't rise, because it's kind of scary too. Like, what's going to happen when it's this full, when this much is happening? And so this card is my stalker card of the Tarot of the Spirit. Okay, so what that means is it's constantly coming up for me. It's always up, and I never know how to interpret it, Like all these years, it's been the most mysterious card. I already knew that. It's a cosmic mystery. And yeah, so focus on the light, but you're in a turbulent sea. Or you're satiated, you're just what's going to happen? You don't even know how you're going to go on. And then I want to say another bit of lore about Kabbalah and Tarot of the Spirit, a note on the publication. So the book Kabbalah and Tarot of the Spirit has a lot of art in it. It's got a lot of graphics and it's got pictures of all the cards. So in the publication process, the book went through the publication process fine, except the Four of Water, the picture of the Four of Water. It wouldn't go through the publication process because they were saying the picture of the Four of Water did not have enough pixelation. It was like, for some reason, it wasn't the same quality as all the rest of the pictures. And it kept getting adjusted and it kept coming back that it didn't have enough pixelation. So it called this attention to itself and it would not let up. So the secret is that the book eventually got published with that card not being fixed. So first of all, it's my stalker card. Secondly, no matter what we did to try to improve it, it wouldn't work. And so you can't tell when you look at the picture in the book. It looks fine. It looks like all the rest of them, but I know it's my stalker card and it called my attention. So every time I'm working with that book, that card calls me. Well, turns out it's maybe the most intuitive card in the whole deck. In some way, you're so full with this intuition that you don't even know where to put it. Watery triplicity. These are the three water signs again. So when any of these cards come up, the veil between the worlds is thin. Cancer, Scorpio, Pisces, or whenever we're in that season, it's time for divination. Cancer, Scorpio, Pisces. Okay. And now here's where this is a part I thought might get a little tedious, but it's related totally to the calendar. So see if you can just track with me on this for the next three slides. Next three slides. Okay, the Cancer cards. So Cancer is going to be in summertime. And Cancer is really powerful in summertime. So summer is overseen by the One of Fire. And that One of Fire incorporates Cancer, Leo, and Virgo. But it's the Cancer that is the most intuitive. So if you look back on that calendar, you're going to see that these three cards are in a sequence, the 2, 3, and 4 of water, moving through Cancer that goes from June 21st to July 21st. And those three cards appear there. So when those three cards are up on the calendar, the 2 of water, 3 of water, 4 of water, which are Venus in Cancer, Mercury in Cancer, and Moon in Cancer, the veil between the worlds is thin, but especially on the day of 4 of water, the flood, Moon in Cancer, right? So if you were going to do some divination, that would be the day to do it. Then the Scorpio cards, because here's another place the veil is thin, and usually in our culture, we consider the veil to be very thin in Scorpio, because this is in the fall, Scorpio. The water oversees the fall. The One of Water oversees the entire fall season. And the progression is between October 23rd and November 22nd, 5 of water, 6 of water, and 7 of water. So when those three cards are up between October 23rd and November 22nd, and you can look back at the calendar and look explicitly at how this falls, Then again, the veil between the worlds is thin, and it's time for divination. So the five of water spilling, that's when the flood is happening, really spilling over. Mars in Scorpio. I'm not going to go into defining these today. That would be way too much for today. But six of water, faith, sun in Scorpio, and then seven of water, insight, Venus in Scorpio. So look back at your birthday and see how these cards are all related, or look at your meditations and see how these cards are related, and you can structure your year around it if you want to. So that's Scorpio. And then the third one is Pisces. And this is 8 of water, 9 of water, and 10 of water in Pisces. So in Pisces, it's February 19th to March 20th. And here again, the veil between the worlds is thin. So we actually see it in a balanced way. It's not just one time in the year, it's 3 times. One time in the summer, one time in the fall, one time in the winter, where the veil becomes very, very thin. Okay, so 8 of water, still waters, Saturn in Pisces, 9 of water, rainbow mirror, Jupiter in Pisces, 10 of water, fountain of love, Mars in Pisces. And this is overseen by the whole winter season, which is the one of wind dawn, which holds the whole winter season, which is Capricorn, Aquarius, and Pisces. Okay, I hope that's clear. That takes a lot more going in depth to look at that, but those three, I just wanted to point out with those three astrological signs. Okay, what about the water triplicity in the family cards? The water triplicity, that's those 3 astrological signs. Okay, so they come together in the fathers, the mothers, and the brothers when the fire and water comes together. So the most intuitive of the cards are going to be fire father and water father, because that's Scorpio and Pisces. If you're with me, are you following me? Does that make sense? So with the fathers, water happens. In the fire father, which is Scorpio, that's a water sign. In the water father, which is Pisces, that's a water sign. In the mothers, okay, all the mothers are related to water in a way because they're all female. It's the female, the yin. So all 4 mothers will be the most watery. But of those, fire mother as Pisces and water mother as Cancer. Water mother is in her own element. Water is the element of all the mothers. Water mother is in her own element. That's Cancer. So if water mother comes up, extremely intuitive, extremely tuned in. And then in the brothers, fire brother, who is in Cancer, and water brother in Scorpio. Okay, so those are the brothers. And so the fathers, mothers, and brothers, this is where that perception, spiritual and emotional perception, falls. And then the sisters come forward. The sisters, fire sister represents Cancer, water sister represents Scorpio, the whole period, the entire period. Wind sister represents Pisces, interestingly. And so the sisters enact these intuitive elements on Earth. Okay, I thought it was interesting that the wind sister, for example, represents Pisces, because Pisces is very dreamy and very intuitive, but it emerges out into consciousness, the wind sister consciousness. So, okay, just to think about, more to think about. And then here's how they fall on the middle pillar of these water cards. So in sphere number 1, so the middle pillar of the tree of life, and obviously I'm assuming a lot of background knowledge on the part of all of you at this point in time. This is not, this lecture is not for beginners. I mean, this is really advanced. Okay, so here's how they fall on the tree of life. 1 of water fits in sphere number 1, and then you move down the tree. Next one down is the path of the priestess. Very, very intuitive, psychic opening, and she is always looking into that secret sphere number 11. It should be below her, but I couldn't graphically show that on the tree. It's behind her, but I moved it out to the side just so you know it's right there. She's looking into it all the time. The doorway of knowledge, which is overseen by Neptune, the god of the sea. And then it moves down into sphere 6, and that's the 6 of Earth, the beauty way, the moon in Taurus, which moves us into the flow of cosmic energies and understanding everything around us as a continuous flow of cosmic energies, and then intuiting that, working with that, creating spaces that work with that, creating a planet, helping to create a planet which is ecologically balanced. All of it, that's all in the 6 of Earth. And then the next one down is in sphere 9, the 9 of fire, the eye of fire, the moon in Sagittarius. And this one is all about soaring up out of our normal ways of thinking and beyond. So if we're starting at the bottom of the tree instead of the top of the tree and going up, the first thing that happens in our intuitive path is we come to this 9 of fire, which is situated in our subconscious arena. So we come to the 9 of fire, we're in our own subconscious sphere number 9, and we meditate, and in our meditation we find ourselves moving far out of the usual container of what we think we know to be true. And then from that we can start to alter the way we are living our lives on the planet, and that's the 6 of Earth. We can create beauty. And then from there, we can enter the priestess, and we can actually start moving, changing, and working with the Akashic records, changing the story, making a new story. And then the ultimate is the 1 of water, open channel, becoming an open channel, and it's just moving up and down the tree in the middle pillar. Okay. Sphere 9, sphere number 9 is overseen by the moon on the tree. It's overseen by the moon. Sphere number 9, which is the power of absorption. All the 9s actually live there, but the one that's in the moon and showing up in the moon would be the 9 of fire. But all the 9s actually inhabit that position on the tree, the power of absorption. This sphere is about psychophysiological consciousness, psychophysiological. We feel it in our gut. It's the subconscious. And with right knowing and right movement in the subconscious, like entering the subconscious and unscrambling some of what lives there, we can attain the power to, quote, think outside the box, from redoing the subconscious, reworking it, reworking what we think we know to be true. Okay, and so this card, the 9 of fire, symbolizes that, moving out of what we think we know to be true. Okay, the key to divination: trust your intuition. Trust your perception. Because you have your own unique way of understanding. No one has what you have. No one. Each person's way of understanding is different. We share certain things, but it is very unique. And so I wanted to throw in here the adage of the Magus, which is to know, to will, to dare, and keep silent. You know things, trust that you know things, but you're not always going to express the things that you know. And that is because to keep silent means to use the power of your discernment. Sometimes you want to know that whoever you're talking to has a container to receive what you're saying. I put in this little cartoon. Whoa, half empty. This is differences in perception, you know. Whoa, definitely half empty. Just listen to you. Always the pessimist. You know? Okay, that kind of explains it a little bit. Okay, so yeah, and we again culturally we have images about what we consider to be sane and crazy. And I've been researching somebody who was so amazing and moved culture so much, which I'll talk about another time. But with this perception that she actually shared with everybody, and almost was considered to be crazy. So we'll talk about her later, the mystery person. So, but right now, we're going to go on to a reading. Okay, so one moment while you look at this slide. And the date today is July 13th. If anybody doesn't know that. So the date of the creation of this video is July 13th. Okay? Guess what card is up today? The Four of Water on the calendar. Today, July 13th, is the Four of Water. So I was getting a kick out of that because I knew that I was going to give this presentation. I had no idea, because I hadn't looked, that today was the day of the Four of Water. Mysteries abound. The mystery abounds. Okay, so here's a reading. All this is place your cards face down on the table, spread them out, however, it doesn't matter. This is just for you to create a reading, but this time you can, and if you want to do a bigger tarot spread or one card, it doesn't matter. You can do whatever you want, but this time, turn the cards face down and then feel over the cards, like with your hands, to draw the card that goes in the position. This is trusting your intuition to the absolute fullest. So you're going to pick the card that goes in the position if you're doing a tarot spread, or just pick one card to answer your question. And you can ask any question you want. You can ask, for example, you could ask, how could I become more perceptive? That would be a good one for today. You can ask, what is my true nature? Or what is my true trajectory? What should I be doing now? What is my right path? What is my right direction? Or what brings me the most meaning or purpose or reason for being? What is my raison d'etre on this planet? How will you rise to meet your destiny? What's the next step I could take? Who are your people, if there are people you want to talk to? Or I threw in, how might you begin the next chapter of your book? You know, you can use it for anything. How will you start your script? Okay, so if you need to, you can come back to this particular slide, but otherwise we're just going to bring this to an end. And the idea is, when you're doing this reading, or as you're doing any reading in the future, to pay attention to the things that I've been talking about here. For example, consider for yourself these ideas and these feelings of claircognizance, clairvoyance, clairaudience, psychometry, because even when you're touching a card, it's a form of psychometry, telepathy, mediumship, because the cards can open all of these things. Understanding the deck as code, because it is a code. It's a code and a spreadsheet. Channeling. What are you channeling when you look at these cards? Or you might have a lightning flash insight. You might experience a sense of prophecy. Keep all that in mind, and also notice on the cards, notice the astrology, notice when the moon comes up, notice if it's Scorpio, Cancer, Pisces, in those dimensions. Notice if it's the High Priestess, if it's the Moon card, if it's the Hanged Man. Okay, so pay attention. really notice if it's the four of water. And I'm going to laugh. I am going to just laugh my head off if anybody gets the four of water today. So, okay. So just know that you're really in the psychic zone if you get the four of water. Okay. And just end by saying thank you so much. And please refer back to Tarot of the Spirit and Kabbalah and Tarot of the Spirit and all the rest of the YouTubes, because this is not a beginning lecture, and there are many on YouTube that explain the background to any questions you might have. So we will end right now, and I thank you so much for listening and walking through this with me. Bless, bless, bless.